I'm fucking vibrating, dude. I drank like a whole Chemex worth of coffee pretty much to myself on like an empty stomach. I'm just like...
I literally can't drink coffee without eating anymore, man. I used to be like that. Howdy, folks. Welcome to another episode of the West Loop. I'm your host, Cam, here with Kale.
Yep, I'm here again.
And today we're kind of getting back to the roots. Just gonna do a traditional episode with just our regular segments.
Bird Boys shooting the shit.
Events. Yeah, just chill and shoot the shit. We have a couple of themed episodes in the works, but this week we just decided to keep it simple. Yeah. How's your week been, dude?
Pretty so-so. Actually, it was really good. This is the first time I've been like eating good, getting enough sleep, and I'm like, holy shit, I feel like a normal human and I feel good. And then it's like, oh, just in time to switch to nights.
I know, I've been back on nights this week, and I try, like, after we did that episode, I'm like, I'm gonna try getting more sleep, and I feel like at times I do, but like between the last night I had an amazing sleep because I was off yesterday, and then I don't go into nights to nights, but the night before I probably slept like 4 hours.
Jesus.
I know, I was exhausted.
Getting literal brain damage, bro.
I know. It's weird though, like when I literally could just feel like me being slightly manic just because I had 4 hours of sleep.
Right.
Like I'm just like all day I'm like, I don't know.
I'll never forget the one day I like got off night shifts, and like it was like at the end of my stretch, right? And so I tried to just stay up through the day. And usually I can do that and handle it pretty okay, but this one time I literally I think it was a mix. I was also dehydrated because drinking a lot of water helped, but I just like started losing my mind. My heartbeat started going really fast. I was like, I'm having a heart attack, and I was like so anxious to the point where like I called like Charlie at school, just like, oh my god, what's going on? And she's like, just go to sleep, dude. And then, sure enough, it helped.
Yeah, it's crazy. So one of my coworkers on nights, he was telling me that like he doesn't do this all the time, but like he stayed up the entire so he worked a night shift, and then we worked again the next night. He stayed up the entire day and then just slept from 6 o'clock in the evening till 10 before he had to go to work. Oh, I'm like, God. What the fuck, man? Like, how do you function on
shit.
That?
I wouldn't be able to wake up after that.
Yeah, I would literally be fucked. I would not be able to wake up. Let alone having to just function the whole day.
Like, do your job, too, right?
Like, it's one thing when you get off a stretch of nights and it's like pushing through the day. I've done it a couple times.
Yeah,
it's like I understand that. One of the worst times is my mom was flying in, and I had to go to pick her up from the airport after a stretch of nights. So I just drove from Lethbridge at 7 a.m. after a night shift to Calgary to pick her up, and then like drove back to. And it was like sketchy. It was dangerous. Yeah, it was
I remember when I was still working in Claremont and living in Calgary, and I would do that sometimes after nights, just come back here so I could sleep here. And not smart at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not a good time.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you want to get us moving into one of these little?
Yeah, sure. Let's go to 93 to infinity. Just reflecting on our weird lives living through this shit from the great year of 93, but just kind of looking through what happened this week. So yeah, it's like the anniversary we're not to date the podcast, but it's January 29th today when we're recording. And so January 29th, 2002, old George W. Bush gave his Axis of Evil speech. And so I don't know, we were like 9 years old. I was barely cognizant. I can remember this fucking buffoon being on TV all the time, but
yeah,
it's only in kind of like learning more recent history as I get older now, like realizing how kind of this would come to define like the next fucking decade. Like his axis of evil speech. So I got a clip ready here. Here, let me share the screen and let's react to this shit.
From threatening America or our friends and allies with weapons of mass destruction. Some of these regimes have been pretty quiet since September the 11th, but we know their true nature. North Korea is a regime arming with missiles and weapons of mass destruction while starving its citizens.
We should be drinking every time he says weapons of mass destruction.
Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom. Iraq continues to flaunt its hostility toward America.
Hey,
and to
one
support
thing,
terror.
I like the irony of this unelected few in Iran. When I learned that, like, how many times like the U.S. installed this Shah in Iran and overthrew the democratically elected leader of Iran. So it's just hilarious that they can turn around and be like, they're not democratic over there, just after they like undermined their fucking democracy. Like, I don't know.
The Iraqi regime has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas and nuclear weapons for over a decade. This is a regime that has already used poison gas to murder thousands of its own citizens, leaving the bodies of mothers huddled over their dead children. This is a regime that agreed to international inspections,
You gotta appeal to the emotion.
then kicked out the inspectors. This is a regime that has something to hide from the civilized world.
Ooh.
States like these
Calling Iraqis uncivilized,
and their terrorist
dude?
allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world.
There it is.
By seeking weapons of mass destruction, these regimes pose a grave and growing danger. They could provide these arms to terrorists, giving them the means to match their hatred. They could attack our allies or attempt to blackmail the United States. In any of these cases, the price of indifference would be catastrophic. We will work closely with our coalition to deny terrorists and their state sponsors the materials, technology, and expertise to make and deliver weapons of mass destruction. We will develop and deploy effective missile defenses to protect America and our allies from sudden attack.
Look at little Dick Cheney's smoke there.
Yeah.
And all nations should know America will do what is necessary to ensure our nation's security. We'll be deliberate, yet time is not on our side. I will not wait on events while dangers gather. I will not stand by as peril draws closer and closer. The United States of America will not permit the world's most dangerous regimes to threaten us with the world's most destructive weapons.
So that's the one that really, really fucking gets me. The United States will not let the world's most dangerous regime threaten us. And my understanding of fucking history is that the world's most dangerous regime is the United States. And they have the most dangerous weapons. So it's just like palpable with fucking irony. And to link it to the Canadian side of things, guess who wrote that speech? Fucking David Frum, a fucking Canadian like conservative pundit.
Really?
Yeah, and you can see him on CBC News, The National, fucking very frequently to this day. It infuriates me to no end when he shows his ugly fucking mug on there, dude. Oh my god, like this piece of shit that kind of got everybody locked into a fucking 20-some year war. Like, how many countless dead because of that motherfucker? And he gets to come on CBC. Like, ugh, I just hate it, but...
Yeah, no, I'm really curious. I don't have a lot of travel history or like world travel, but like I'm curious like what the views are on like the other side of the world on an America standpoint. You know, like America tries to play this card like in the speech where it's like there's the North Koreans, there's the Iraqis, there's Iran. It's like it's just like, but you're right. Like they are probably. I mean, I think the North Korea one's interesting because I feel like North Korea tries to flex and scare more maybe than I don't know this, but I do feel like they do that more so than the United States. But it's always just been the focus on like
Yeah.
the United States, like,
And like that was kind of hard for me to swallow for a long time, right? Like, because we grow up with this kind of rhetoric where like there's evil countries, and like that's a thing. You don't want to fall into the trap of defending these things because like God, nobody fucking knows what's going on in North Korea. Like there is like a weird kind of like familial dynasty thing going on, right? But at the same time, when you kind of look at it in context, it's like if you're not flexing, you're getting overthrown by the U.S. So it's like
yeah.
same with Iran. Like you can't really. Again, it comes down to there's no good guys and bad guys kind of thing, right? And things are more complex than that. And
No, absolutely. And I mean,
yeah.
the fact of the matter is the good guy and bad boy standpoint is just like what that country sees them as themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like a judgment based on other people and countries because
every
sign has pointed towards the United States being the bad guys, but obviously they're not going to say that.
Well, exactly.
And it's just weird too, like coming from our perspective of being like Canadians. It's just like, I don't know, like there's this element where it's just like because we're like the little brother to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like there's an element where we almost don't need to care or worry, and I feel like a lot of people here do run with that kind of attitude. But then there's also an element where it's just like, should we be okay with this? Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I guess it's just, I guess, yeah, it's interesting because that kind of roped us into it too. Like I know early on, even though we did participate in military action against Iraq in the 90s.
Yes, yeah, of course.
We refused to declare war against Iraq when they did until like the United Nations Security Council approved it, right? So we were getting pressure from the U.S. to get involved in it. At first, I think it was Jean Chrétien. Like, I think he did resist a bit, as much as that guy's a piece of shit. You got to give him props for that, I guess. But it's just, yeah, like that's kind of how he's a George W. talk about our allies, right? And like they even bully their fucking allies into helping them do shit, right?
Well, yeah,
like,
Well, and like really, who like other than us, like I guess.
The UK was a big one, and France, but
yeah.
So yeah, and it's just interesting to me how that's kind of laying the framework. I mean, it definitely warped my brain growing up with that kind of propaganda flying around.
Oh,
like,
totally.
I thought, like, especially playing shit like Call of Duty, like, oh, there's terrorists out there. They hate our way of life, and like that kind of like Team America type shit, right?
Well, and what's funny too is like when you talk about terrorists, if anything's taught us over the past few years, the terrorists we should be worried about are the ones that are our own citizens.
Right here at home, yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, it's just fucking, I don't know.
Yeah, just wait. There's going to be some kind of like Wexit jihad coming up pretty quick here.
Yeah, so, and then I'm going to botch this because I don't know enough. But like, so, Jagmeet's saying, like, he proposed this whole proposal to declare what's that?
The Proud Boys, yeah.
Yeah, the Proud Boys as a terrorist group, and it passed, apparently.
Did it really?
Yeah.
See, and that's even like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some Proud Boys around that are fucking scary and stuff, but my perception of it is they're just a bunch of sad, lonely dudes that are like bitter against women and like kind of like they fall into that like reverse racism, like minorities get special treatment and you're being racist against me. Like they just seem like a bunch of fucking whiny internet nerds. Like I don't know if I call them fucking terrorists, but
yeah, I know.
Who knows? Like that's a thing, right? Like as soon as they do ally themselves with some more unsavory groups, so yeah, maybe it's fair, but it's just like I don't know. Rather than address the reasons that would drive people to extreme views and extremism, we're just gonna fucking condemn them and.
Well, yeah, and this kind of speaks back to the whole like Twitter thing, right? Like it's just like it's interesting.
Yeah,
I actually had a conversation about that with a friend, and he said that even like the far left people are now getting banned on Twitter.
Well, that's the thing.
Like,
that's why
Twitter kind of got some flack of being like this leftist kind of platform, and now I think in order to try and disprove that, they're like banning people on the far left side of the things.
And that's what I was saying. I think when we were talking about Trump getting banned from Twitter and stuff, I was just like, yeah, sure. You could make some argument that maybe it's like necessary to ban that kind of hate speech and stuff, but history's taught us that they just use that as an excuse to bring it around and fucking nail people that are trying to improve the world, right? Like, whether you want to disrupt the status quo to like do horrible racist shit, or if you want to disrupt the status quo to make lives better for people, the people in charge don't care either way. They don't want either happening, right? So,
well, and I think the scarier part thing is that, like, talking about this in the past, a majority of the people live their lives and they just don't care. They try to not focus on the negative and not focus on the politics, because generally it is dark and negative. And the problem with that, though, is like, of course, I remember when this was a huge thing, like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, where like the whole like online protection thing that was going to go through, that bill that they were going to pass to like, remember, I'm going to botch this.
There's been so many, I don't know.
Yeah, I know there's been so many, but anyways, like, it's just like that people weren't like outcry about, this is our right, like freedom of speech, whether it's on the internet or not, and like freedom to use it as you please kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then now people just kind of had taken this approach where, because everyone jumped on Trump and other platforms and stuff like that, it's just like people don't care. Literally realize this is just going to be a trickle effect to lead to that exact same thing that we were fighting 6 years ago and being scared about, as they just slowly start to restrict what we can do and what we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And then people will just slowly like be banned and all the time. Like,
well, that's the thing, right?
The new normal.
That's how they do. They scare people, and then when they're scared, they're easier to. So, like, literally, you're right. Like, that's a perfect analog to this George Bush shit. Because then they bring in the Patriot Act and like, hey, we need to tap your phones and we need to be spying on you. It's for your safety. Exactly. It's for your safety. And then people are like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, okay, I'll take my shoes off at the airport. You know, like, it's just like. And then what's interesting to me is that they call it security theater, because that shit doesn't actually make you safer. It's just you go through these like actions and it makes you feel safer, but they're not actually catching these people. Like, even all that Patriot Act shit, when they're spying on people, most of the terrorists they caught was just like FBI guys like encouraging people to like talk about building bombs, and then when it got too far, they swoop in and take them, and it's just like, it's like almost entrapment, right? Like, it's just,
yeah. Well, and I think that's what's interesting too, is as much as maybe people as felt as though that was going to be a safety point, now that technology has advanced so far, I would say it's done the complete opposite, and people are more aware of the issue. So it's just like, no, why am I having multiple devices, my TV, my Bluetooth speaker, my phone, my computer, listening to me all the time? Like, yeah. That's fucked up.
It is. And I know, like, you kind of sound like a wacky person, because then you get the whole, well, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about. But yeah, it's just on principle, right? Like,
well, and I agree. Like, there's an element I understand to that. If you have nothing to hide, there's nothing to worry about. And I'm 99.9% of us aren't going to ever have to worry about that, even when you say absolutely ridiculous things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure my phone's picked up a lot of ridiculous conversations.
Oh, yeah, I'm probably on so many fucking lists, dude. Yeah. So many watch lists. Like, you hear that, CSIS? I'm on to you.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I thought that speech was really emblematic of like, kind of, as we were just slowly becoming aware, kind of, that was the world we were kind of growing up into, of this just security state, right?
Yeah, and another piece, like, because I feel like a lot of, or a majority of people that would watch that speech, I mean, there was even elements where I caught myself, it's like, oh, is this really that big of a deal? Like, this is pride for fighting for our rights, for our country. But like, it's also that standpoint of like, why does that matter? Mm-hmm. Like, why like, everyone lives in a different country and they're gonna believe that their country is the best. Mm-hmm. And like, I hate this view of like, I don't know, like, it's just,
well, yeah. And specifically the axis of evil part, because honestly, like, that's what I meant when like kind of growing up with that and then playing Call of Duty. It did, like, it paints this picture, like, there's just this, like, coalition of countries that, like, want to, like, murder us because they hate the way we live. And it's like, what are you talking about? Fucking North Korea and Iraq have nothing to fucking do with each other? Are you kidding me? Like, or even, like, Iran and Iraq. Like, they're fighting each other now. Like, there's, like skirmishes there. Like, Iran's, like, moving in. Yeah. Now that the U.S. has decimated Iraq, Iran's kind of moving its fingers, and they're, like, kind of exerting control over them, and there's like conflicts there. It's just this idea that there's this like vast conspiracy against the West is the most ridiculous thing, and I find so many people are still stuck in that kind of worldview.
Well, and I hate it too because it summarizes the country as a whole instead of the evil, like the evilest people are the people that are in power,
Yeah.
whether it's our prime minister, the U.S. president, or whatever president or whatever they call it in their country. Like, yet their citizens are probably some very nice, very normal people that get categorized as this.
Well, that's a thing.
And they're the ones getting fucked over by their political system in their country, right? Like,
there you go. What a perfect point. Like, that's the thing. The average person, no matter where you are in the world, we probably have more in common with each other. Whether me or some random dude in Iraq or some random worker in North Korea, we probably have more in common than all of us do to our fucking leaders. Like, that's the thing. Like, we
absolutely,
have,
yeah.
like, it's just, it boggles my mind. And you're right that it's just this, like, I mean, I hate to, like, well, the elites, the globalists, but, like, they do. Like, you want to talk about evil fucking people, let's talk about fucking Daddy H.W. Bush. Like, that guy's a fucking monster. Like, and then you got his kid talking about the axis of evil. Like, fuck right off. Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, the one thing that North Korea has done so well is giving very little access to what actually goes on there, right? So, like, there's an element, like, I would love to sit down and chat with someone from North Korea. Like, that would be so interesting.
100%. And that's kind of, I think this is going to be relevant right now, like this kind of discussion in the years coming up in regards to China. Because I'm starting to see that ramping up and up, whether it's the COVID stuff and like blaming them and like really kind of pushing this narrative that China fucked up and that's why we're all fucked now. Meanwhile, China dealt with it. They're living life fairly normally and we're still fucking quarantining and struggling a year later.
Exactly.
And like, again, I don't want to defend China because like powerful people anywhere are just pieces of shit usually. So like, God knows what they're up to. And that's another thing, like you said with North Korea, is that like we don't fucking know what's going on over there because it's like locked down. Like they don't really let much information out. And then the people that are feeding us information about it kind of have some biases to pitch to us, right? So
yeah.
Kinda,
no, yeah, the China piece is it is shitty. Like, and I don't know. I don't understand why. Like, even if like, and this is the part where I'm not fully educated on too, but like, even if it was this person ate a fucking bat, like, how can you summarize that as a Chinese issue and not an individual issue? And yet there are people in Canada in quite large quantities that truly believe that this was China trying to fuck over the rest of the world. And that is so sad and pathetic.
Dude, I literally found a stat that like something like 29% of Albertans, so this is specifically Alberta, but 29% of Alberta, almost 1 in 3 people, believe that coronavirus was an engineered bioweapon. What? Not even fucking kidding you.
That's crazy, man.
Like, and so yeah, like that's like, I think if anybody looks back at like the George Bush, the Iraq shit, because it's kind of like common, that's kind of a common thing now. Yeah, Iraq was a bad idea. That was stupid. There was no weapons of mass destruction. I mean, there's memes about how, oh, don't have oil or the U.S. is going to roll in, right? Like, that's kind of like a common view now. So I just want everybody to remember, if you feel like you got duped by this shit back then, and now looking back like, oh, that wasn't the way it was, keep that shit in mind as this fucking, the war drums start beating for like Iran or Syria or China. Like, just keep that shit in mind. Like, they fed us lies before. Don't take everything at face value.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And like, who knows what will happen now? I mean, hopefully shit calms down, but you never know.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was that was very emblematic of kind of 2002 moving, basically the aughts, the 2000s. Like that, I feel like that speech was basically laying the groundwork for what we were going to be living through as we grew up a little bit. And so I just wanted to touch on that.
Because in 2002, who was our prime minister?
I think that was Chrétien at that point.
Chrétien. Right.
Oh, after that craggy fuck.
And after Chrétien, it was
Paul Martin, I think.
Paul Martin. Yes, yeah, it was.
Or did he? No, Harper probably got in not long after. I think Paul Martin might have been right before Chrétien.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Let's fact check this.
I watched Paul Martin
Oh yeah,
last
Paul Martin did
October.
succeed Jean Chrétien.
I watched Paul Martin not this October, but the October before coronavirus, obviously. Give an honorary degree speech at the U of L.
Who did that?
Paul Martin.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah. Like it was Logan's like grad.
No way.
And he got an honorary degree from U of L.
Disgusting.
Gave a speech at it.
PM the PM. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good spot. We'll maybe take a little break here and then come back for our dumbest Burton of the week.
Or a guy invents a bomb and kills 100,000 people just like that.
We're back. To start it off, we're going to get into some kind of current events stuff, but as we always like to start that off, let's elect the dumbest Burton of the week. And so, I don't know, have you heard of this lady, Cam?
I didn't actually open the article.
No, that's fine. I elected to just decide on one for us, so we usually have a little bit of a deliberation on who we think should go, but Albertans were a little tame this week. But this one's pretty great. It's a little bit older, but there's this senior spokesperson for the Edmonton Police Service. Her name is Patricia Moxren. I don't know. Looks like some kind of Ukrainian shit.
That was a pretty good pronunciation.
I don't know how the hell to pronounce that, but yeah, so she's like a spokesperson for the Edmonton Police Service, and so of course they've had to denounce her. But yeah, somebody found her Facebook profile. And it's her full name, the same one as her EPS email signature. And she just took it down. But if you Googled her, it was the second result, apparently. This is all reporting from the Edmonton Journal. But yeah, she's just out to lunch. Like, she's just constantly posting about, like, conspiracy theory stuff, like the pandemic, public health orders, yada, yada. And then, of course, like, the U.S. election was a fraud and all that. Like, just some real wacky shit, right? So she was like encouraging business owners and citizens to break public health orders that the Edmonton Police Service is supposed to be enforcing. So, just classic conspiracy shit. Like, here's one post here. She posted a Calgary Herald article with the headline, "We're far from getting out of this. COVID-19 restrictions extended through at least January 21st. And so her commentary on that is, "Puppets for the globalists. #scamdemic."
Yeah, I'm seeing this one. I quite like this one. She shares the Trump supporters gathering DC. Mayor claims violence coming. Her slogan for that is, "The only violence will be from the left." I wonder if she regretted saying that.
Yeah, I wonder, right? Yeah. Yeah. A bunch of people getting killed. But yeah, here's a nice rant from her I kind of want to read. "If you are advocating for lockdowns, you are complicit in tearing families apart. You're complicit in inflicting untold suffering on millions of people around the world. You're complicit in casting the poorest and most vulnerable in our societies into even further grinding poverty. You are complicit in murder." This is interesting to say these things coming from a spokesperson for the literal fucking police.
Yeah. Well, and this I know we've pointed to this, but what I find so frustrating, and I think it's more frustrating because where we're at, where now there's people like really advocating against shutdowns because, and some of it I understand, like some of it coming from like those small business owners and stuff like that, or like smaller local gyms and stuff like that. I get it. It's frustrating, but if we would have done this right and just shut everything down like China did, or other places, we wouldn't be in this fucking position. So, like, as much as it sucks that we're in this position, don't blame the left for like pushing for shutdowns. Blame the government for not getting it right the first time. Like,
well, that's the thing. I think this, to me, what infuriates me the most is that it's just such a fucking lack of imagination. And I always come back to this. It's kind of like trite at this point, but there's that book, Capitalist Realism, right? How we're just like, our imaginations are so limited by like the current kind of economic model that, okay, big pandemic coming through, it's going to fucking kill a lot of people. Yeah, maybe just vulnerable ones, but guess what? They're still people. So it's going to come through, it's going to kill everybody. We need to shut everything down. The fact that people can't believe that there's any other options beyond, well, we either shut everything down and businesses close, or we keep it open and people die. Those are the only two options to people. It's just like, what the fuck do we have a government for? What do we pay taxes for? How about we shut everything down, we pay places to stay, pay people to stay home, we subsidize these businesses, or just like make rent not like put a whole moratorium on evictions, right? Like just cancel rent for a bit. Like there's so many things that the state has the power to do. Like we literally like it would have been possible to both not make people lose their jobs and be thrown into the meat grinder of crushing poverty, as she says. We could have avoided that and had public health measures. But the idea that, nope, the only way you're allowed to make money is by being on the market, either selling products or selling your labor. Like, people are so constrained by that. They have no imagination beyond it. And that's what really fucking infuriates me.
Yeah, totally. And same. And, like, I think where we're at, which is so frustrating, is now you still have half-assed measurements put in place that are affecting the small guys. Like, I've seen posts from small businesses downtown. I've seen posts from smaller gyms. And it's just like hundreds of people every day are going to our fucking mall here and just browsing around. And it's infuriating because it's like, just shut it all fucking down or don't. Like, and I get it, like, why we need to shut it down, but we still, even in March of last year, I wouldn't even call that a full true shutdown. Like, maybe for a while it was a little bit.
The fact that the mall was shut, that was the weirdest, crazy thing, right? Like,
yeah,
we closed our temple to commerce. That was a big deal for people, right? Like,
yeah. Well, and I just don't understand how we can justify shutting everything else down, but keeping a place like a fucking mall open. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
You can't, and that's just like a perfect fucking example of all these contradictions that you fold yourself into when you can't imagine anything beyond it. It's just, it's infuriating. So yeah, Patricia, whatever her name is. Sorry to any Ukrainian listeners that looks Ukrainian to me. But yeah, Patricia Moxron. Dumbest burden of the week. Thanks, lady. I wonder, did she ever get fired? I didn't read into that. They took her thing down, but... let's see.
Oh, great.
Postmedia reached out. She didn't return repeated requests. And then the EPS Director of Communications, Michael James, said the supervisors became aware of the posts earlier in the week. This is around January 8th, I think. Given the employees' role in the organization, their actions were promptly addressed through our internal human resources processes, and the employee has agreed to abide by the terms outlined by our human resources division. There's no evidence that these personal opinions have impacted the employee's work providing information to the public, and we consider this matter concluded. So no, she's still working. She's still a spokesperson for the EPS. Cool. I mean, that works. I mean... Yeah,
she's sharing tweets of Candace Owens, so that
sweet.
shows you
Okay,
the
there
kind
you
of
go.
person
This
that
is
she is. Yeah,
this is the vein of thinking.
Because fuck Candace Owens, man.
Yeah, she's pretty garbage. But yeah, it's interesting. No, I was reading some things like Alberta is especially prone to wacky conspiracy shit. Along the lines of that one about the coronavirus, I think we're still at about 25%. About 1 in 4 Albertans think that climate change is a complete hoax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Alberta, baby, it's real. I love it.
It's sad, man. It's just kind of sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of just sad. It's like we're never gonna get shit done.
Yeah, it is sad when you like are a real human and think about this stuff. But I'm just so desensitized to the internet stuff. Like I'm almost getting Joker-fied, baby. Like it's so fucking absurd. It's almost funny if you forget that it has real effects on people. But
I get it on an element of just sitting back and watching it burn kind of thing.
Absurd.
Like I understand that, and there's an element where I'm pretty much there too. But there's an element that's just like I want to still have some fucking.
I gotta hold on to
I'm
that
a human
shred of humanity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can't put on the makeup just yet, but well, I don't know what else has been happening. The only thing on my mind is all this GameStop shit.
Yeah, so I need you to educate me a little bit on this. I've just read multiple articles everywhere, and I kind of am understanding a little bit, but maybe if you can.
I'm just pretty much just as uneducated as you. So from what I understand, it all came from that Reddit subreddit, Wall Street Bets, right? is where this originated.
Yeah.
So there's this subreddit where, they basically, it's like day trading kind of like stock market shit. But then there was this concerted effort. I guess somehow they found out, I think it was Melvin Capital. So I don't know. You've seen The Big Short, right? I don't really remember because I only just remember Margot Robbie in the tub explaining it. But she explains what a short is, I'm pretty sure, at that point. So it's essentially, from what I understand, it's like you're betting against a stock. You're like buying it for cheap, or you're buying it expecting that it's going to drop in price. You're like betting against it, essentially. So I guess this one hedge fund, like a capital asset manager firm or whatever, I think a lot of them did, but the biggest one was this Melvin Capital. So they apparently, it was kind of like a common wisdom on Wall Street that GameStop is garbage stock, short it, it's never going to go anywhere really, you know. So it was pretty dirt cheap. So all these Redditors decided to like.
They had already claimed that they were going to close like hundreds of stores too. So like shit was in the dumps.
Oh, so it was like kind of on a downward trend anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess what happened is that a bunch of like just kind of average people, just kind of the sheer force of numbers, bought up a shit ton of GameStop stock. And because the stock market is all just a sham and it's essentially gambling for rich people, and it's sensitive to big movements of money and capital like that cause the stock price to rise. And so if you've bet against this stock, if you bet that it's going to fail and you really over leverage yourself and put a lot of capital in that kind of bet, you're fucked, right? Like as the stock rises, it's your short's basically going to turn back on you. And from what I understand, losses on a short are unlimited. So like there's no cap on how much money you can lose if your short backfires on you. And so like that, these hedge fund managers started sweating because they are like, it's not just their money, they're managing other people's money, right? And like a lot of it. So from what I can tell is that like basically a group of fucking nerds on Reddit fucking almost took out a bunch of fucking hedge funds. And so now the reaction to it is hilarious because now you can't buy GameStop stock on a lot of the retail trading platforms. Like trading for the average Joe, you just can't buy it now. They've locked people out of it. So it's very much that kid when he starts losing the video game gets mad and turns it off, you know? It's just fucking infuriating.
And now there's an outcry for people to like get criminally charged in this.
For like the Redditors?
No, I think the other side.
Oh, for shorting
like,
stock.
Why should the Redditors get in trouble?
Well, I've been seeing that they want to, because like, you're not supposed to, that's conspiracy, you're not supposed to conspire to manipulate the stock market. It's like, what the fuck have y'all been doing for the last century? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's very much do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, right? Like, well, we're allowed to do it, but not you filthy fucking pores, you know? And so, like, it's really heightened to me how much of a fucking sham the market is.
Yeah, no, it sounds fucking crazy.
It's hilarious. I wish I would have got in on it. I go, God damn. I've been like, that's funny because I've been like playing with like stock simulators. Because, I don't know. I've been trying to play by the rules, you know? I've been spending less money and trying to put money away and saving. And it's just kind of like, it's kind of fucking disheartening. Be like, wow. Like this whole idea that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and cut costs and one day you too can be rich. It's like, I'm doing well. Like I'm more secure than I ever have been because of those spending habits and kind of trying to save money. So it's good advice. But this idea that you can become rich or like get yourself out of a hole by doing that is a joke. The pull yourself up by your bootstraps stuff is garbage. So I've been kind of flirting with the idea. I've been playing with some like apps where you simulate stocks and buy them just to see what would happen if you actually bought them. And now
so that you don't actually have to use money. It's just to help you. Like...
Yeah, just to learn how to do it and learn the market, right? Now I'm like, fuck, I should have thrown some real money in on it, man, right before they locked us out. Oh, I wish, but...
Yeah.
So I like, though, because apparently, like... this is where I don't understand it, but I guess what they need to do is, like, those Reddit... Like, the people holding the GameStop stock that caused it to drive up, like, they... Usually, people would sell when it goes up, right? And so these hedge fund people want them to sell when it's lower rather than higher so that their losses are less. But now it's kind of like a vindictive, like, no, fuck you, we're just going to hold on to it. We're not going to sell. It's not about making money. It's about making you bleed money. So I kind of like that. But
no, that's sick.
That's my very rudimentary understanding. But
yeah, I from the bit I understood, it kind of sounds similar. What? So have you read anything on this whole Dogecoin thing?
Oh, Dogecoin? Yeah, I knew about
Yeah.
it. It's like a cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
It started as a meme, like making fun of Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Because you know that, like, that one Shibu, that one meme of the dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but...
Okay.
So someone just made a cryptocurrency based on that, but... Actually, I'm pretty sure it sponsored, like, a Formula 1 or a NASCAR car at one point or something.
What the fuck?
Dogecoin did.
That's weird.
Yeah, and so that's another. I don't really understand currency speculation. I think it's similar to stock market stuff where you're betting on whether it'll rise or fall and kind of holding on to amounts of currency. I don't know. It's all the thing that gets me is that we all look at gamblers and it's like an addictive, degenerate habit, and then you realize, oh, literally, that's all the stock market is. It's just a casino for rich people. But when they lose, millions of people lose their jobs and starve. Like.
No, exactly, right? Like, it's ridiculous.
It's such a fucking shame.
I never understood it that way, but, like, it does make sense. And to claim that these people, like, these Reddit people are the problem, like, absolutely not.
It's hilarious, right?
They exploited a flaw in the system of rich people doing rich people things, and it's just kind of fascinating to see that they were able to do that.
And it wasn't any different than what these hedge funds do. It's the exact same thing. They manipulate the market. It's just because they have a lot of other people's money, mostly other rich people's money. So they have a large chunk of capital that they can move around and manipulate the market in a very similar fashion. It's just these Redditors did it by a bunch of people chipping in a little bit of money instead and acting coordinatedly.
Well,
so
I think that speaks to, like, a bigger thing. Like, hopefully that this starts some sort of pattern to continually do that, so that it does show the flaws in just the stock exchange as a whole.
But I wonder now, like, the main platform that a lot of those Redditors use is called Robinhood, and Robinhood just locked it out, not letting anybody buy fucking GameStop stocks. So they're, like, basically kind of buckling under pressure from these fucking Wall Street fucks to step in and change the rules for the poors, you know? Like, it makes my head explode with rage a little bit.
Yeah. It just speaks, like, to everything else, though. Like, it's just like the 1%'s gonna control how the rest of us live our fucking lives for the most part, right? Like, whether it's a political standpoint or whether it's money, like, and this just reconfirms that with this issue as well.
Yeah, we don't live in a democracy. I mean, sure, everybody gets to vote, but when who you're voting for is decided by money and influence, it's what fucking democracy, right? Like, it's bullshit, but
exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know. This is kind of the big two. That's the big event that I don't know. The only thing that anything else happening lately to you?
Biden got into office.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then he vetoed the Keystone XL, and Alberta's shitting its pants. So we'll have an episode on that. We're actually going to talk about that next week. We're going to get a little more into the political economy of pipelines.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I don't know a whole lot, so it'll be more you teaching me. But
yeah, we're gonna play MythBusters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the only thing that I want to touch on is that's freaking me out. I know our health minister Tyler Shandro released some modeling, but I guess that UK variant, the one that's supposed to be like 30% more transmissible, contagious, and like definitely more deadly, it's in the community now. It's entered community spread. It's not just linked to travel. It's out there and doesn't look good, folks. Does not look good.
Yeah, there's a few pieces on it. Like, luckily, I shouldn't say luckily, but it sounds like everything's still covered under the vaccine. So far.
As far as we know, yeah. Good thing we're having.
So I think the greater issue is why the fuck are we getting screwed over on these vaccines right now? Like, our shipments have been down like crazy. Like, we keep getting delays on it. So. Well,
again, it all comes down to the market, baby. Why would Pfizer worry about getting vaccines to Canada with only 30 million people? 30 million people when there's bigger centers to move it to and probably make more money off of.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if these people are Albertans, so maybe that's why they weren't our bad Burton of the week. But did you hear about those people? I want to say they're Albertan, but they traveled, I think, to the
Yukon. They were from Vancouver.
They're from Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they got healthcare jobs so that they could get fucking vaccines.
I don't even think they got them. They just said they were healthcare workers.
Oh. Yeah, like, what the fuck?
Jumped to the front of the line and, yeah, garbage humans.
Yeah.
Pieces of shit.
But, no, it's crazy, and, like, the rollout needs to be handled better on that. Like, I know there's an element where it's slightly out of our control, but I don't know.
Sure. Well, it could have not been. Like, I wish I knew more details on it, but from what I understand is that there used to be a crown corporation, like a pharmaceutical company, that was owned by the federal government, or so technically owned by us, the people. And it would have had the capacity to roll out a vaccine campaign completely domestically. We could have made our own vaccinated our own people. But sure enough, I think like 10 or so years ago, they sold it off, privatized it, and then it moved out of Canada. So we fucked ourselves essentially by...
Yeah.
We got to cut the budget, cut the deficit, you know. Fucking...
And then old Trudeau announced today that he's banning all flights out of Canada to hot destinations.
Wow. Well, fucking you're too late, buddy.
So, yeah.
Should have done that a year ago.
Yeah, we'll quickly let all the politicians get their vacations in. And
over Christmas.
When it becomes an issue, we'll ban it afterwards. And that's what I said. So I seen someone retweet it, and they just said, "Oh, just because you just got back from your vacation."
Yeah. Close the door on your way out.
Yeah. Which, I mean, realistically, it's shitty that happened. That a lot of politicians did that. It is the right move because.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not just politicians; it's people with the money, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
continue to do that. So, you might as well stop it. And if more and more variants are going to pop up, then the focus should be on shutting everything down, keeping people at home, and getting these vaccines. But sadly, I don't see that happening.
Well, again, yeah, like, why are you, like, yeah, the politicians, they shouldn't have gone on vacation. But it's just like, or these rich people with money, but, like, what a dumb contradiction. Don't travel. Stay home. But you can still buy a plane ticket and go places, but don't do it. Don't do it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah. We're honestly, I thought maybe this year would get better, but I feel all signs are pointing that we're in this for another year.
Oh yeah, at least, baby. Especially, and if it just keeps like spreading and we can't get it under control, it's just gonna keep percolating in our bodies among the population. We're just gonna get all sorts of new strains popping up. Like, it's just, if you don't fucking lock it down quick, this happens.
I had this thought just because a buddy of mine had COVID and I was talking with him, and I had this thought, and I'm just like, you know what? Getting COVID at the beginning might not have been the worst thing.
Yeah, when it was like still tame.
Yeah,
not these super strains. Yeah,
yeah. Like I don't know. I'm not a strong believer in herd immunity.
No.
But I definitely. I mean, maybe there's lower risk to getting it again, even if it is a different strain than the strain you got.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think the only argument was having herd immunity as like a public policy, because that just means it's just going to burn through the population and kill all those vulnerable people. Like, that's why it was not a tenable position to have. But you're right that on like the individual level, if you're healthy, like, obviously don't fucking infect yourself, but like, maybe, yeah, retrospectively, like, you might have been better off to just get it.
Yeah, and that's the only standpoint that I will potentially believe in. It's like,
just like a fun thought experiment. Yeah,
if we're in this for the next 5 years, it might have been nice to just have the first strain and not have to worry about it.
Be like those fucking influencers licking toilet seats and door handles and shit.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not.
Fear is the real virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're about at an hour here. Maybe wrap it up here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is another episode of the West Loop. Be sure to check us out on all of our platforms. Hit up the link tree to find our Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. We are on the Spotifys.
We are on all that shit.
Yeah. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Give us a comment. Let us know what you want to hear. Tell your friends about it. Share it on all your pages.
There you go.
It would be nice to get some viewership on this, but
For sure.
We're still doing it.
And we're hope you guys like these shorter ones then, because I feel like that's like a little more digestible. We started out at about an hour, and then slowly we started getting a little more self-indulgent. But yeah, it'll be good. I think.
Yeah, no, and then when we do themed ones, we'll just focus on that theme and just try and keep that in an hour as well.
For sure.
The hour is the goal, which we are sitting at, not including our break, or including our break, 59.
Oh, perfect.
And 59 seconds. 1 hour. There we go.
So we'll be at about a TV hour. What is that, like 44 minutes with commercials?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure. Awesome.
All right.
All right, everybody, have a good week.
You as well, buddy. Talk to you later.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Peace.
Peace.